Hey, I'm Cameron.
I'm Karsten, and together we're Derezzed. This is Let's Talk TV, where we take a look at some of the most popular, newest TV shows and debate the content they hold to see if it's a show you should watch.
This week in Let's Talk TV, we'll be looking at one of Netflix Original's newest TV shows, Shadow and Bone. This story takes place around a girl named Alina Starkov and her boy toy, for no other adjective to use, Mal. God, I don't even.
I don't even know.
I
if
don't
they
even
give
know
him
his
a-
last name. I don't know. His name is Mal, though. That's what we get. Pertaining around mostly those two characters. Alina, though, is something of a special anomaly called a sun summoner, which is a magical witch, I guess, that can create sunlight. This whole story boils down to her preparing with other wizards like her and witches, basically named Grisha, to go take down something called the Fold, a shadowy mass of energy created by a legendary shadow summoner. So hopping into it, we'll just look at first the story. What did we think about the story? I think it was a rushed story, but it was a well set up story. I think the first 4 or 5 episodes of the 8 episodes it runs got you pulled in. Even the first episode pulled you in, but more so, it spanned around 4 episodes of being like the first act basically in a movie, and I think it did a good job of actually setting up all of the characters. Not a very good job of setting up the geology, but that's a different thing altogether.
Well, I want to touch base on that because I also think it was a lazy kind of rushed story, and I think a lot of that does come down to that whole 8-minute or 8-show season. I think that's a gross understatement. It should have been at least 12 episodes. There's not a lot of story.
Yeah, I think bare minimum, I say bare minimum, they should have had 2 more, bare minimum, 2 more episodes at the very end. I think for sure.
I think, at its base, it's got a lot of potential, like you said. It's you don't have any real feelings for most of the characters at first, but they do a decent job setting it up.
Well, it also has throughout 8 episodes, it's setting up. Let's see, we have Western Ravka, we have Eastern Ravka that are divided by the Fold, the shadowy mass that's basically the antagonist of this season, the actual Fold. Then we also have the Shuhan come from the south, and then in the north, the Fjerdan. And they don't really elaborate on all those, and then there's Ketterdam, which is
Ketterdam is within
part of
East
Ravka. An island, though, I believe, is what it actually is on. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think they really
released
go
a map,
over it.
and I'm pretty sure it was on It doesn't really give you that feel throughout, but I'm pretty sure it's on.
I mean, so yeah, the geography is one thing. They really don't touch the Fjerdan except for once, but we'll save that for kind of characters. And same thing with Shuhan, but it just feels almost blank. It feels rather bland.
I think it only, a lot of why it feels bland is, I think you said it's rushed. I mean, just look, the one thing I didn't like about the first episode was how first and second is how quick they learn that Alina is this sun summoner, which is supposed to be a prophet, a legend, and no, she's just it now. Like, something happens in the Fold, and she summons, sunlight, which is interesting, and kills all the monsters, whatever. But the next scene, everyone knows about
Yep.
it because they have to, or it would be such a slow moving thing. They'd need 40 episodes if it was realistic in that.
Well, for me, I feel like they took a lot of time to say anything where they could have. It's a lot of implications. It's a lot of inferences. It's a lot of reliance on you reading the book. And I mean, as someone, we both haven't read the book. I know that. And frankly, I didn't care to read the book. I didn't even know it was a book until after I'd watched most of the season. I was watching it for a TV show, and I just kept seeing all these plot holes where it was like, there's nothing there. I have no clue what they are wanting me to see, what they're wanting me to know. Half the time, like you said, information travels incredibly quickly. I mean, inhumanely quickly.
Tweets.
Yeah, no, we live in an internet age, and what you post 3 seconds ago, I'll see. But this is sometime between the 16, 17, 18, 1900s. And
like all the Fjerdan instantly knew where Alina was. Like Alina's taken by the Grisha, the witches and wizards, and instantly ambushed by Fjerdan from the north. In probably what takes a minute, maybe a minute and a half of actual show.
Well, and I mean, you can make the case in that specific case that maybe the Fjerdan are always looking out for the Grisha. They're always looking out for Kurgan.
Disposition.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it felt.
Well, what about the storyline of the crows just in Catterdam? I think that was a highlight. Catterdam feels nice, and the actual development of the actual three crows, which we'll get to later, felt really cool to see.
So I will say that was one of, if not my favorite part from the beginning. From the moment you meet Kaz and Inej and Jasper, rather, you actually like their characters. You want to see their characters more on screen. Honestly, they might not be Grisha, but they
well, I mean, the Grisha aren't super powered either. I mean, the Fjerdan, they're not incredibly powerful where they're equal to 50 people. They even say that in the actual TV show, which is nice to say they're not super powered, but they do get beaten pretty damn easily.
Yeah,
by like bows and arrows.
Yeah,
for some reason.
I think that was a big plot hole in itself. But I certainly don't want to, I guess, harp too much on the minutia of what weapons are used to kill. I do like, especially with Alina Starkov, since she becomes the Sun Summoner, they don't push her to be this mystical god who instantly has all these divine powers. I will say I like the progression of her powers. I will also say that the fact that she somehow went through 20 years of life and never noticed that she was a Grecian, never figured that out, because you have to take this test.
The test boils down to getting like pricked by a needle or something, but a special needle apparently, but and like when you get pricked, you basically fume with whatever element you can create, I guess. You only see it once, but it's for Alina, like light comes out of the cut.
It was kind of
doesn't necessarily have to explain that too well, but
I mean,
you get enough, I think.
Overall, the story, I don't think it was done poorly. I think it was a good setup, a good first season, even. I definitely.
I mean, what about the Shadow Summoner? That was the most obvious thing.
Yeah. Kurgan. Again,
the Shadow Summoner is a bad person.
Yeah,
that's basically what it boils down to. You find out later that he created the Fold, which is kind of cool.
And I think that kind of leads us into the characters because, I mean, overall, I think the story was just like I said. I think it was passable for a first season. I would not accept that from a second season.
And has almost no.
But going into the characters, starting with General Kurgan, starting with the Dark Summoner, the Darkling as they call him, And he's known as also as the Black Heretic, for anyone who hasn't seen the show or who has seen the show, if you were kind of confused by that. But he is like you said, he's very clearly the bad guy from the get-go. He's not a good guy. They did originally in the first episode, they built him up, or the first couple episodes even, they built him up to be this character where, he's been wrong, and he wanted to do, or his family has been wrong, and
It's
he just
his
wanted
redemption
to prove.
arc.
Yeah, he just wanted
he basically uses that to manipulate Alina.
Yeah. But I mean, and so that was kind of it with Kerrigan. Everything's so predictable with Kerrigan.
I think that's a lot of the characters, though. I mean, one of the major players, Alina and Mal.
Yep.
Alina is a cardboard cutout. She doesn't have any personality at all. She's half Shuhan. That's her whole story. She's half Shuhan and gets discriminated because of it. She gets bullied, basically. And then Mal, he's a pretty good fighter, apparently. Yep. The first scene you see him in, he's basically in a pit fight, and he wins. So apparently he's pretty good in the military that way. But I mean his whole story takes he's in love with Alina, basically, is what it is.
And it goes beyond that. I mean, you have Zoya.
The Grisha at the beginning.
Yeah, she's the squaller. You have her. You have even the conductor. The conductor could have been a really cool character. I was really liking where they were taking him, and they just killed him off.
So for anybody who doesn't know, the conductor is someone who basically finds a way through the fold. It's supposed to be a monumental feat.
And yeah, so there's just not a lot. You have characters. You have Pekka Roland. You have Drason. You have Grisha. All the Grisha, Zoya, Mal and Alina, and you have, this is a big problem for me. For me, there were so many names, and with those names, I mean, you have King Piorta, and they say his name once or twice in the show, and absolutely nothing else. Problem is, for me, if you're going to give a character a name, you have to do something with them.
Well, I mean, they're setting up a whole universe, though. I mean, even the Grisha, there's a Grisha that gets taken by the Fjerdan, and it's a whole,
love arc. Nina and Matthias.
Mission that has no payoff, no relevance whatsoever, which should have been taken out. That should have been. But what's her name?
Nina.
Oh, Nina. They say it. I know Kerrigan says it once, like, Nina, we got to find her, but doesn't tell you why she's important. She's just another Grisha.
I didn't have much connection to any of the characters, with the exclusion.
The standouts
of Kaz, Inej, and Jesper.
So the standouts, the Crows. So the Crows are basically a group of three people that Kaz is the leader, and he's the owner of something in Catterdam called the Crow Club, a casino and bar, basically. But these three are standouts by far. Kaz, Inej, and Jesper. All three are magnificent in their roles. Yeah. They're very colorful. And they have arcs throughout the story.
They have actual character development. And I think that, I don't think anyone else has any. I don't think they develop another character.
I mean, to an extent, Alina, I think. But a lot of there are a ton of side characters that are just like either cannon fodder or just gonna show up for one or two instances. That's probably a good way to actually talk about the actual writing of this show. There's a lot of fluff, like we said before with Nina and the Grisha Matthias. That gets captured by the Fjerdan. That's probably 15-20 minutes of extraneous crap that just doesn't have any payoff at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any payoff. You could take it out and it would be the exact same.
Well, and now I will say with her and Matthias, it does seem like by the end of the season that they are going to...
Yeah, I think they're setting everything up for a second season.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
They're setting everything up. They threw everything on the floor, and they're just taking a gamble to see if it works. I think it's a ballsy thing, but it's a gamble nonetheless.
I think the end of the season is a really good way to sum up how the writing actually is in the show, though. Because, I mean, everything is exactly where it needs to be. Everything. Everyone. every time they need to be there. If Alina's somewhere and Kerrigan's looking for her, he just happens to be there 15 seconds behind her.
Let's talk about, so they set up really nicely in like 4 episodes. Kaz, basically, the Crows get a job to abduct Alina for a ton of money. That's basically their job. So they get over the fold with the conductor's help. And for 4 episodes, they're basically setting up this master plan. And like they have to go through trial after trial. And once they finally get Alina, the very next scene, she waves some light in their eyes and escapes. Not even 5 seconds after she escapes.
That's sloppy.
Like,
there's no reason.
And
you
then
could not have
somehow
written
magically is able to meet up with Mal too.
That's what I'm kind of saying. I mean, Kerrigan's 4 seconds
GPS
behind her.
on her, you know?
Yeah. But the Grisha themselves are terribly written from a logical standpoint.
Zoya's whole character was she doesn't like Alina.
Well,
and you never know why.
I don't even mean character, because
That's
that's a problem. But I mean the Grisha from a what can they do? The Squalor can bend air. The Inferni can bend fire, and then you have,
they have
like
tide makers that create
water. We think we don't know. You never see one.
So there are a few times throughout this show where these Grisha basically stun people by using some sort of what I thought was like blood bending. So I thought it was the tide makers, but you think it's the Heartrenders?
I'm pretty sure it's the Heartrenders. I couldn't tell you.
Basically slowing down their pulse so much that they paralyze themselves. But I thought it was the tide makers basically blood bending.
There are some places. There are places where there's just a discontinuity and you do not know what's going on. And that's just, I mean, I don't know how you could look at it in a critical manner that would give you the answer. And it's not the worst part of the show by any means, and it doesn't make it unwatchable, but there are definitely times where I scratched my head and said, well, what did I just see? What's actually going on in this scene?
I mean, we do have to say, though, that like we said, the Grisha aren't super OP. The magic is pretty mundane. It's like Lord of the Rings magic, where it's subtle. Save for the Inferni. They just throw fireballs. That's all they do. I think the only thing they had fun with is the Crows. The Crows were cool, and they had really cool quips. All of them were really nice. Even, I mean, they had character arcs. Inej goes through this thing about not wanting to ever to kill, to killing for maybe Kaz, but maybe for the cause of Alina being this saint, basically, because she is a legend in her eyes. But you never actually know that, and it sets everything up to be in season 2. But the next talking point, let's talk about the CGI, the actual effects, the atmosphere, the actual sets.
So visual effects for me, and just the grading and the composition, I think it was actually, for the most part, for a TV show, well done.
Yeah, I think all of it, especially the CGI. CGI is hard to get, even nowadays with TV. You know, it's not Game of Thrones, but it does look pretty realistic. In the fire effects, you know, it actually has some sparks come.
Yeah, I'll say this much. I don't want to give them the whole slide, because it was a $40 million 8-episode season, so that's still $5 million.
Yeah, but you're paying 20 characters, you're paying 100 different crew members. You're paying a lot.
I mean, you're paying a lot, but also I'd expect the time put into it. But for visual effects, I just think there were definitely times where it was really, really good.
I think the worst CGI in the show was when
it's not
Alina, when she first unlocks her power, she has this scene where the camera is looking at her, and she basically just, all of her skin turns up to 100 in contrast and just, becomes white.
Yeah.
And not like the
no,
race, but
and
shoots light, and it's like, God, that was cringe.
That is so not well done. That's not a question. That is the worst visual scene in that show.
It's better though. It's weird. They did it right when she's actually manipulating like a light beam or
so
particle. She's manipulating them, and it looks great. But then when they actually use it for like, if she just manipulates her hand and lights it up, it looks so terrible.
I want to say this much. I think Alina's powers were the worst as far as visual effects go. For the effect side, for visual composition, I think the show is really well done.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they got all the settings fairly well done. But with visual
each of the
effects,
settings feel different too. I mean, we have Catterdam, the rundown ghetto casino type.
Yeah.
You know, that's the real like. I mean, like Jesper, he's a cowboy. It has that feel. It has, you know, Wild West,
but
no law.
So they definitely have good composition for the scenes themselves. But for Alina's powers, every time they use them, they just feel so bad compared to everything else. I mean, you look at it.
The Squallers can't do anything.
Well, you can't see. At least you can't see wind.
Yeah, actually,
you just have to manipulate a 3D model where the little sail floats out. That's easy.
They have a little dust particle with it.
Yeah, I guess so.
It actually looks pretty good, actually.
But,
not gonna lie.
But you look at Alina, if you actually take a critical eye at that, you know, they didn't even use practical lighting. They didn't use anything. It just, they take a glow tool, just rotoscope out the character and turn it up to 100. There's no actual lighting in the background. If you ever pay attention, there's no ambient occlusion. There's no ambient lighting change at all.
Maybe they'll patch that in, okay? That's on week 1 patch.
Day 1 patch.
Yeah, okay.
Soundtrack and the audio effects. First off the bat, I know, you know, you and I have talked about it. I didn't hear any soundtrack.
Well, I think it's just atmospheric. It's in the background for sure. The soundtrack isn't going to be, so it's not going to be, you know, Hans Zimmer or anything, but I think it brings an air of what the scene is supposed to be like. Now, not a lot of the scenes have soundtrack that I remember, but I do remember a few that actually gave you a feel of where they're at. I guess is what to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely could have just overlooked it, but I never personally noticed any. However, those sound effects, especially that first episode,
the Inferni.
That's everything is so exaggerated. You know, it made me feel
it's not
like
as bad as Shyamalan though.
I don't disagree,
but that was, you know.
But this is terrible. I mean, you look at Mal's first scene in the real world.
Explain the snap. The first episode. Explain that.
So when the Inferni is gosh.
Tell them, okay.
So
the first episode.
Yeah, first episode. One of the Inferni is I think they're learning.
They're training.
They're training.
They're about to go through the fold, so they're training to use their powers more.
And one of them snaps, like they normally do for a fireball. But oh my goodness, I don't.
Well, they have basically a chainmail glove on that is supposed to enhance their powers. It's something they call what are the actual
it's
objects? Oh God, what were they called? The tools that they use?
They don't give the tools a name. Fabricators make them, though.
Oh, I thought...
No, fabricators make them.
Fabricators make these objects that are imbued with power. So it's basically a chainmail glove, and when she snaps, it sounds like flint hitting steel. Not
it
like
is
metal hitting... chain hitting chain. It literally...
Well, and same episode... You look at Mal was in a fight with one of the presumptively one of the Grisha, one of the other army members. He's in a fight with him, and he at one point he throws a punch, and it felt like we were in an '80s movie, like the most cliche.
Butter hitting the wall.
Yeah, like what? And I just felt like they could have done that better. For me,
I didn't actually. Hear that, so it might have maybe I just didn't pay attention, but
I'll say go back and look at it again. It was traumatic. Honestly,
it is hard though to get sound of a fist hitting flesh.
Well, okay, so that goes on to my other main point about the soundtrack, and this goes for the CG too. A lot of my problems in the soundtrack, in the CG, could have just been fixed by them toning it down a little. if you want to have that punching sound, go for it. You want to have that snapping sound like
Just have a
that, go
little
for
less.
it. Have it quieter.
Well,
have it more.
That does bring up the point, though. I think the best part of the sound design or anything isn't the actual sound track. It's the way they actually equalized this.
Yeah.
When you're Kaz and you're talking to in the back alleys of Catterdam, you can hear it. It's
Yep.
nice, it's fluid. But then when you're in a fight, everything's rustling.
Yep.
It's not super loud.
Yep.
It's a little lit. It's a little more, but it's equalized to a point where you don't have to keep turning
Yep.
up your volume, turning down your volume, because that shit's just annoying.
No, I don't disagree. That's
Super annoying.
one of the
think
most
that's
difficult
incredible.
things.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's difficult, but I mean, even blockbuster films, they get to the point where I have to, half the volume during action scenes.
Transformers, Michael Bay, anybody?
I mean, well,
To this day, we have movies that
Yeah.
suffer from that. So it's good to actually see a TV show. I mean, it's equalized perfectly. I
Yeah.
never had to move my volume up or down a single digit, which is super nice. But
I think that's a good place to wrap it up
let's-
with some final thoughts and kind of give the viewers a
yeah, I
conclusion.
think so. In my opinion, season 1 takes a big gamble, basically, of setting everything up, but never actually having payoff, which can be nice. I do want it. It sets it up well enough to get me intrigued.
Yeah.
Like the first episode even gets me intrigued enough to watch all of it, of course. But it does do a good job of setting everything up. I expect more from season
Yeah.
2, though. I expect a lot more. But it was for what it is. It was well done. I think the Crows by far stole the show.
Yep.
The Crows were the best part, and like if there is ever an episode in the future, if they get a second season, third season, where the Crows like die or just like go away, I'm pretty sure I can just put down the TV unless it gets better. I can put down the show because I'm like, well, shit, these 3 characters were the standouts. All of them did a phenomenal job. Now, Alina, I think, did an okay job, but wasn't actually given much to work with. Mal, the same, had nothing to work with.
Yep.
Kerrigan, I think, is going to have
a big
a lot
role.
to work with in the future. But I would say I would give it probably a 5 out of 10. Just average, but I mean, that's not bad. That's average. And, it's set up a lot, and I want to see a second season. I do.
So, I mean, I think I'm very similar in a lot of ways. I don't see a lot of TV shows really that pull me in anymore. I watch almost every new series on Hulu and Netflix, and even some of the newer
You have
ABC.
no life.
Something like that. I can't
I don't watch
deny
any
it.
of them.
Well, I mean, I try and watch, I like to watch new things and I like to see what's the newest. But, I don't often find that there are a whole lot of well-developed Hulu shows
It's
or
all just
well-developed.
shovelware.
It is.
That's all.
It's them, well, especially with Netflix, it's them just trying to push forward till another certain season of another certain show comes out. We won't talk about it until we get there. But, I mean, was this show well done? Yes. Did it actually pull me in? Yeah. Did I actually want to see a progression with the storyline? Yes. Was I a little let down that there wasn't really a progression of the story? Yeah. And I really hope, I think it's integral. I don't hope. I think it's integral
10
that
seasons minimum 10 episodes minimum for
more
season
than
2.
that. They need to have 12 to 16. It's
I don't
not.
think-
This
I
isn't.
mean, Stranger Things doesn't even get 12.
Yeah, I know. That's part of Netflix's problem. There's so much story to develop, and they just take no time on it.
All right, so
But
what would you
I
rate
would
it,
say, all the things that they need to fix. It does really come in at a half-baked show for me. I am gonna put it right at a 6 out of 10. I want to see the second season. I want to see it do better. I want to see them actually progress these characters. Maybe give them some development. I want to see, clearly Mal and Alina are going to get together. That's neither here nor there. I want to see them actually do something with Nina and Matthias. I really do.
I think they're going to in second or third season.
Yeah.
I think they will. But 6 out of 10, still above average. Still kept us entertained.
Yes.
That's great.
But, as always, let us know down below in the comments what you thought of the show, if you've seen it or not. If you liked what you see, give us a like, maybe comment, subscribe
maybe. But
if you didn't, you can always tell us what.
Comment on things we can do better, for sure.
This is a new thing for us. So
just having some fun. So
thank you for tuning in.
I'm Cameron.
I'm Karsten.
And we are signing out.